Here at Fields and Brown Barbershop, legacy means a lot. We're trying to fill big shoes left by my two uncles and my grandfather, where every haircut came with conversation and every customer left a little taller than when they walked in. The barbershop is about pride. It's about knowing your barber knows your name and your story. Come see us at Fields and Brown Barbershop, where tradition never goes out of style. 3 generations, 1 legacy, your barbershop.
Financial advisor Scott Beasley knows time spent with family is everything. As a founder of Beasley Wealth Management, his mission is to give clients the freedom to enjoy time with family without the burden of financial concerns. A local of Lawrenceburg, Scott deeply values building relationships with clients, ensuring they make informed decisions concerning asset management, tax planning, and retirement planning. Offering a free initial consultation, Beasley Wealth Management helps clients pursue their aspirations with confidence.
Banking made simple and convenient. At Builtwell Bank, we're here for you. Whether you're making a milestone purchase or saving for retirement, our dedicated financial team will walk with you every step of the way because we care. From personal banking accounts to making sure your business and commercial needs are met, we'll make sure you have a dedicated Builtwell banker that understands your unique needs and goals. Serving Lawrenceburg and Summertown. Come see us today. Member FDIC.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.
And welcome everybody in here to the X Sports Network for this Tuesday edition of the Mark My Words Sports Show here on the X Sports Network. I'm your host, Michael Marks, and first off, happy St. Patrick's Day. Got to rock the green. Unfortunately, been the beneficiary of several pinches in years past. Not going to have that this year, and we've got a lot to get into, folks. Didn't have a show last week. Was at the beach covering some Lawrence County High School softball. That was a blast to be down there. Had a great time. So we will jump right into local sports. We'll catch you up with everything that's happened over the past week. So we will start in Murfreesboro, where the Loretto girls basketball team finished their season in the Final Four with a final record of 23-11. Opening round win over McMinn Central, and then fell in the second round to eventual state runner-up in York Institute, 43-41. Allie Augustine got her 1,000th point scored in that game. So a really exciting season for the Lady Mustangs, and you have to think that maybe this is a preview of what's to come for Lady Mustangs basketball. You're losing only one senior off this team, and if you want to talk about player development over a 4-year career, look at what Jessie Chance. At the end of this year, she was one of the most important, if not the most the most important player on the floor. Some games for the Lady Mustangs, but you're only losing one senior. You get everybody back, and you're bringing up a crew of 8th graders that just won the middle school state championship that were recognized up there, I believe, on Wednesday as well. So future's bright for Loretto girls basketball, and definitely nothing to hang their heads on this year. And listen, I think this year is a very evident point that scheduling tough can help down the stretch. 23-11 final record, definitely not the most glamorous in the world. I mean, you go up there to some of those teams in the state tournament. I'll see if I can pull up that bracket real quick. So you had McMinn Central come in at 20-12. That was the most losses, but you had a 24-5 Westview team, 28-6 York Institute team, 28-3 for Huntington, 22-12 for Smith County, 25-9 for Gibson County, and 30-3 for Gatlinburg Pittman. And they had I believe it finished as the number one, if not the number 2, toughest schedule in 2A all year. Just an incredible season for the Lady Mustangs. Now for the team that is playing, well, will be playing eventually over my right shoulder here, the Loretto boys basketball. Defeated Huntington in their sectional game last Monday, and unfortunately with the way boys basketball is scheduled in the state of Tennessee, you have to wait nearly a week and a half before you can go play again. They'll actually get their first round game tomorrow. We'll go over that 2A boys bracket real quick because there is not an easy path anyway. So the Loretto Mustangs will be taking on East Nashville. That game will be tomorrow on the Exports Network at 9:30 a.m. sharp at MTSU, followed up by Chattanooga Prep against Peabody. And then on the bottom half of the bracket will be Smith County and Lewis County at 12:45, followed up by Gatlinburg, Pittman, and Westview at 2:15. And like I said, I don't know if there's an easy draw in here because you look at some of the teams with Loretto with 10 losses. Well, they were a region champion. Chattanooga Prep, we know how good they are. Smith County, that was a very good team as well, but one that the Mustangs actually beat in game one of the season. A Lewis County team that Loretto went 2-1 against is up here. So those are kind of the teams you're looking at with those 11-9 losses. East Nashville at 23-4. Loretto got a tough draw here. It's not going to be easy, going through East Nashville and then either Peabody or Chattanooga Prep, who are, just as highly regarded as anybody. But I'll tell you, I think this may be one of the scrappiest boys basketball teams I've ever seen. Did not start the year great. They were having a hard time putting the ball in the basket, and that's how you win games. But the one thing that never wavered was that team's defense and that team's heart. And, they may not be the most talented team up there. They could be the 8th talented team up there. But I don't know if there's going to be a group of guys that want it more than them. They're the defending state champs. You lose 4 out of your 5 starters from that team. It was not an easy path whatsoever. And, kind of similar to what I just mentioned about the Lady Mustangs basketball team. The boys scheduled it very tough as well, because the one thing that, that is kind of used to judge the strength of schedule is Coach T. We use that around here for a lot of things. Well, one thing Coach T doesn't take into effect is some Alabama teams that the Mustangs have played. A very good Mae Jemison team, a very good Marshall Shoals team, and a really talented Mars Hill team. So definitely a ton of talent. And something that was posted March 10th. It was the Mustangs team that only had 2 members voted to the regular season all-district team, despite winning the regular season title, going 7-1. They started the season with a game-winning shot versus another state tournament team in Smith County, just mentioned. They started the season 1-3. We're 4-6 at the end of the calendar year 2025. And again, you lose 4 out of your 5 starters from the year before on a perfect team, and you have to rebound. It's a lot of youth. It's a lot of experience. It's kind of a mix of old and young, and it is an extremely fun team to watch. And again, we'll have their first round game against East Nashville. Audio only, unfortunately, due to TSSAA rules. But we will have audio. I'll be up there. I'll try to paint the picture as best I can. And let's turn it over to the Diamond because, folks, it's baseball season. It's softball season. Unfortunately, we still have teams playing, and I'm not going to say unfortunate. Unfortunate due to the scheduling that we have basketball and baseball going on at the same time, because I feel like those are 2 sports, along with football, that deserve, kind of a full attention. And we'll get there eventually. So the Loretto Mustangs right now 2-0 on the season. Lawrence County 5-2. Summertown had a game yesterday against Covington High School, a win there for Summertown. They're 3-2 on the season. Softball, I got Loretto at 1-6, Lawrence County at 3-1, and Summertown at 4-3. Again, Lawrence County and Summertown just came back from, along with Lawrence County's baseball team, came back from a trip to Gulf Shores, playing the Gulf Shores Classic down there. You got to see a wide variety of teams, different skill levels, and I think it was a great test for all 3 of our teams to go down there and kind of see what you're made of. The Lawrence County opened up against a very, very good Walker Valley team and struggled in that game, but really looked good all the way through. Didn't lose another game until their last game on Wednesday. Summertown also faced some tough competition with Mount Juliet, with the Gulf Shores at one of the host teams. Not easy one bit. And boy, Lawrence County, they put up some runs, I'll tell you, on the baseball side of things. A really fun team to watch. I'm excited to see them against some of the in-county foes, Loretto and Summertown, because those are always going to be some great matchups. As for some sports today locally, just got that up on the Facebook page. We have 2 baseball games and a softball game, and hey, we're getting them to you early, so Yeah, it's great. We're getting them to you early, and so you can watch what we'll talk about in our next segment because there are 68 teams fighting for a trophy, and we'll get to that in a moment. But we do have Lawrence County and Florence baseball. That game will be played at 4:15 right down the road at Lawrence County High School. It will be on the X Sports Network. We will have Summertown versus Battle Creek baseball. That will be up in Spring Hill at Battle Creek High School at 4 o'clock on the X Sports Network. And then on the softball side of things, Lawrence County and Lewis County doing battle at 4 p.m. at Lawrence County High School, also on the X Sports Network. So a ton of action tonight, and it'll get you kind of suited up for tomorrow. I know we have at least one state tournament basketball game, and I'm sure we'll have plenty of baseball, other things going on. Actually, with it being Wednesday, there may not be a whole lot going on. See if I can give you a little bit of a sneak peek. As of now, it looks like Wednesday is clear, so an all clear for tomorrow. So you'll get one day of rest, so to speak. After that Mustangs game tomorrow morning. But listen, honestly, if you're a sports fan, and especially a high school sports fan in this area, it's got to be one of the most fun times of the year because you have teams playing in Murfreesboro. It's state tournaments. You got teams playing at the beach for invitational tournaments for softball and baseball. We're all over the place, and honestly, it may be a little stressful, but it's got to be one of the most fun times of the year for sports fans. We have a ton of action, and we are covering it here as much as we can, at least, on the X Sports Network. So, when we return, we are going to talk about that March Madness tournament coming up. We've got first 4 games to talk about that start tonight, and that will be when we return here on the Mark My Words Sports Show.
At C&B Linen, fast, friendly, and reliable service is our promise to you. Because you're not just a customer, you're family. From multi-use linen to branded floor coverings and a complete range of cleaning supplies, C&B Linen is here to make sure you have everything you need. From our high-quality products to our fast, friendly, and reliable service, you'll experience the difference with C&B Linen. Because you're not just a client, you're part of our family. You'll be winning with C&B Linen.
Got a dent, a ding, a scratch, or a bent fender? Major or minor, Car Country Collision Center in Leoma can fix you up. Car Country works with all insurance carriers, gives free estimates, can work on foreign and domestic vehicles, and has experience you can trust. They've been in business since 1990. Unfortunately, accidents happen, but you can get your car back on the road with as little hassle as possible with the help of Car Country. Call 931-852-4708 or stop by at 2567 Highway 43 South in Leoma.
For the best meal from south of the border, head to Cocina Real and Puente Grande for lunch and dinner. With a wide array of mouth-watering entrees, there's something for everyone on the menu. And you can't forget the cheese dip. They'll treat you like family, and you'll never leave hungry. Make Cocina Real Mexican Restaurant and Puente Grande Mexican Restaurant your choice for authentic cuisine, located in Lawrenceburg, Tennessee.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.
And welcome everybody back here to the Mark My Words College Sports Show here on the X Sports Network. And it is time to probably do the most dangerous thing any sports person can do. I'm going to fill out my NCAA tournament bracket live and in the flesh, and you're all going to get to see my picks. This could be make or break, really, big time for me. So we will, and listen, you know, I may throw one into the Kalshi thing. If they're going to give $1 billion to somebody who can get the right tournament bracket, and I get it's one in I don't know how many trillions or quadrillions or quintillions chances of doing it, but it can happen. So we will start in the East region round of, and actually, let's start with the first 4 games. Let's see. Unfortunately, they're not actually in like the tournament predictor thing on ESPN, so we will. Yeah, they don't. Man, ESPN showing no love to the first 4 games, so we will get those. So we can get those pulled up real quick. All right, so we've got 2 tonight, 2 tomorrow. Again, we'll have the 16 seeds get it started. The 11s will close it out. That's the same schedule for tomorrow. So True TV going to get a ton of traffic for the month of March, and it's always the funniest thing seeing the True TV viewership numbers throughout the year. But hey, they got the tournament, and I'm all here for it. Our first game of the day, 2 16 seeds, the UMBC Retrievers, and taking on the Howard Bison. And it feels extremely disrespectful for me to stumble over UMBC, being that they were the first 16 seed to ever win a game. And they won that game by 20 points. You know, it's really kind of tough to tell, but I tell you, Bryce Harris for Howard is top probably 100 in scoring in the country, about 18 points per game. That kid can hoop. He's a good rebounder too. You know, leads the team in rebounding. For UMBC, they're a little bit of a slower pace, only about 70 points per game, only giving up about 65. Not an incredibly great shooting team, but again, it's these 16 versus 16 games that kind of get you in the feel for the tournament. And it always feels kind of sad that they make the 16 seeds play in. Like, it was already such a struggle to get in there. I think all the playing games should be 11s or make it 11 and 12s. So some of those, you know, at-large teams like the Auburns and stuff like that, and I'm not saying Auburn should have made the tournament, but at least get a chance to play in. You know, I feel like these teams have, you know, they won their conference tournament. They earned it. They should be in. So we will jump to the next game of the night. A really interesting matchup. You got Texas and NC State. The Longhorns 18-14 in the regular season were a interesting team, and I said early in the season that I thought that they were one of the more talented rosters in the country that were being held back by some possible subpar coaching. I redact that a little bit. I mean, they're talented, don't get me wrong. With Daylon Swain, with Volkatitis, he's extremely good. But really after that, it feels like a lot of inconsistencies. Because you get Tremont Mark, who can, you know, go for 20, go for 30, but you know, he's been really, you know, touch and go this season. Jordan Pope, kind of more of the same of him. He's had 30-point games this season. You know, some 20-point games, you know. But really, I feel like they're missing a true point guard. And that's something that is very, very crucial when it comes to tournament time. Because I would look at, you know, honestly, I would look at Jordan Pope as their point guard, just at his size. But really, it's Daylon Swain, who is, you know, one of your taller guys out there that's leading you in assists. So, and I get that's not necessarily Texas's play style. It's where they got eliminated in the tournament last year. A bunch of guys back from that team, but I don't know. And that's kind of the way it is with 11 seeds. Because NC State, you could say the very same about them. Had a very, very touch and go season. You know, had some really good wins, had some really rough losses. Listen, this is a team that has got a strange collection of talent, maybe the best way to put it. I mean, you got Kadir Copeland, who came from that McNeese team last year with Will Wade. And, you know, Will Wade, to give him a kind of a round of applause. He is, I believe, 40, 41. He's not very old. And with NC State making the tournament, he is now, at 43 years old, has taken 4 different teams to the NCAA tournament. That's incredible. Copeland kind of and McNeil are kind of the way this team goes. And I think Paul McNeil is one of the more exciting guards in the country. Kid can score, and I think Vin Allen Lubin and Darion Williams bring you the experience that you need. As does Copeland. This is a very senior laden team. Those three guys, they have tournament experience. They have experience with Will Wade, and they have and that's what you need at this point in the year. I'm not saying they're going to go on a run, but it feels like every time NC State's in the tournament, they do. I'll take NC State in this one, and the other one I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with the Retrievers. I mean, they're a hard team to cheer against. They had that miraculous upset over Virginia, and then Ryan Odom goes through Virginia and now has them in the tournament as a 3 seed. Really fun stuff to see. So we'll stay in Dayton tomorrow. We got Prairie View A&M, the Panthers, taking on the Lehigh Mountain Hawks, one of the more fun names in all of college basketball. Again, spreads don't mean anything in these games. I don't know if Vegas knows much about these teams at all. Lehigh, though, a 3.5-point favorite. I mean, they were third in the regular season in the Patriot League. It was a shame that Navy got put out of that tournament. And the SWAC kind of the same way. Bethune-Cookman was put out pretty early, and Prairie View was one of the bottom 5 in the conference. So they're definitely, and both of these teams right around 500. I mean, they both score in the mid-70s. They both give up in the mid-70s. It's 500 teams are going to do. They're going to win some. They're going to lose some. But both these teams on win streaks. Both have won 5 in a row. Both don't want to go home. It's going to be a fun one. And then the nightcap, the team, I don't think anybody has ever wanted to watch Miami, Ohio, the Red Hawks, as much as anybody does now. Taking on the SMU Mustangs. Listen, Miami went perfect in the regular season and won their first round, or lost their first round of the MAC Conference tournament to a UMass team with a very good head coach and Frank Martin, a guy that used to be at South Carolina, and took them to I think they went to a Final Four that year, which is just crazy to think about, but they did. Listen, these are two teams that I really don't know how to judge, because SMU had a decent run in the ACC tournament and then somehow only scored 58 against the Louisville team that has, I don't want to say subpar, but their defense gives up on average 75 points per game, and they scored 20 less than that. But this SMU team also has they got a good roster. I mean, Boopie Miller scoring close to 20 points a game. B.J. Edwards, I think, is a guy that a senior transfer out of Tennessee. I feel like isn't getting talked about a whole lot. He has 2 triple-doubles this year. And you're thinking, what? How? I haven't heard of that. Went for 21 points, 11 rebounds, 10 assists against Cal State Fullerton back in December. And you head back a little bit further back into November, had a 24-point, 13-assist, 10-steal game against Arkansas State. Again, not great opponents, but kind of an interesting stat there for Mr. Edwards. And funny enough, the winner of this game gets Tennessee in the first round. I bet he would love to go back and see his former team. And also, I don't even want to pronounce his last name to butcher it, but you get Oglu, the big man out of Turkey for SMU. I mean, dude's getting like 8 boards and 2 blocks a game. It's 7-2. He's really locking down. And got a youngster, Jermaine O'Neal Jr. on the squad, a young guy out of Texas. Be fun to see him out there. I'm really curious to see Miami of Ohio against a bigger quality team, because you go back and look and you struggle to find, who is the best team they play. That Wright State team that they beat by 7, that's a 14 seed. They beat Akron, who is a tournament team. But other than this, I'm not seeing anybody that is a glaring win. So we will jump now on to the main games of the 64. And we will base those picks in those games as is, like the Miami, Ohio / SMU. I'm going with SMU, etc. So Duke and Siena. We will start in the East. We will go East, West, South, and Midwest. So Duke, Siena, first round game. I feel like that not much to talk about here. Sure, Siena has a great story being led by a guy that was a point guard on one of the last Siena teams that had a bit of a March Madness run when Jay Wright was the coach, or that was a Hofstra, pardon. But Siena haven't been in the tournament in a while. Listen, Gavin Doty puts up 18 points a game. He's a shooter, but, it's Duke. They've beat Florida. They beat Michigan State. They creamed Louisville twice. They beat Michigan, beat Virginia handily once, not so handily the next time, and a good win over Clemson. You look at Siena, and some of their notable wins on the season are against American University and Marist, and Merrimack. Unfortunate, but I'm going to have to go with Duke on that one. Probably the most confusing of the 8-9 games, just based on these teams have some really, really confusing results. We'll put it that way, because you go back to the first game of the year, all the way back in early November. If I can make my way to the home page. TCU, great head coach, great team. But you go back to November, look at that first game of the year. They lost to New Orleans. New Orleans University of New Orleans. Not the Pelicans, not the Saints, not a professional team. They lost to a team that lost in their quarterfinal of their conference tournament and finished with a record of 15-18 in the Southland. Nothing against them, but that's a terrible loss. But then, they beat Florida, and they beat Florida pretty soon after that loss to New Orleans, if I'm not wrong. They lost to New Orleans on the 3rd, and then 3 weeks later beat Florida. And 2 weeks before that played Michigan close. Beat Wisconsin the day after the day after they beat Florida. Have a win over Iowa State, have a win over Texas Tech. Then you go to Ohio State. They played Michigan close both times. They played Illinois close. They beat Wisconsin. They beat Purdue. They played Michigan really close in the Big Ten tournament. For a guy like Bruce Thornton, there's no way he doesn't get through his entire college career without winning at least one NCAA tournament games. I love Jamie Dixon. He always makes the tournament, but I can't remember too many great runs from him. I'm going to get Ohio State in the first round of that one. St. John's, Northern Iowa. Listen, I think the Big East champ got slammed with their seeding. Give me St. John's. He is an easy one in that one. A 4-13 that's kind of compelling to me is Kansas and Cal Baptist, but this Kansas team does have a bit of a different feel to them. Now, Dominic Daniels puts up nearly 25 a game for Cal Baptist, and they get up and down. If Darren and a lot for Kansas rides on Darian Peterson for me. Yeah, they can win this first round game without him, maybe, but could they win the next game without him? If he's only playing one half, his minutes have gotten better, and notice Kansas has looked better as of late. I'm gonna go Kansas though, to get an easy win there. Now, we got my Cinderella game coming up next in the 6-11. You got UCF and Louisville playing at the KeyBank Center in Buffalo. Really nowhere near either of these schools. But USF head coach Brian Hodgson was talking about I don't know if it was a post-game interview or just a press conference going over the tournament, but they're getting to go to Buffalo, New York, and he's a guy from New York, and his father has Alzheimer's or dementia or something along those lines, and hasn't been able to travel and watch his son coach, and he is from New York, and has made his way around. He was an assistant with Nate Oates at Buffalo, at Alabama, and has recently gotten his first shot at South Florida, and it's going well. Has a 70-36 overall head coaching record across his two jobs, and he gets to go home and coach a game in his home state, and his father's going to be able to come watch him. And I just think something like that, you look for stories when you pick upsets. And listen, I love Louisville. I love the getting up and down, taking a bunch of threes, but they have been the most inconsistent team in college basketball this year. I'm going South Florida as my first big upset. Michigan State and North Dakota State, the Bison taking on the Spartans. And listen, Damari Wheeler Thomas, he is an extremely talented player for North Dakota State. But you got Jeremy Fierce, you got Jackson Kohler. This is I would call it a good old-fashioned Michigan State team, because they don't have the first-team All-American or the Wooden Award watch list guy like some Michigan State teams have. But, man, they're just a good old basketball team. I mean, you look, they have exactly what you need. They got a point guard in Jeremy Fierce. Jackson Kohler, your kind of four that can go for 12 and 12 or so. Cohen Cart, the most flashy player in college basketball when it comes to dunks. Carson Cooper, an extremely talented big man. And they've got a good bit of pieces off the bench as well. This is a Michigan State team I think is prone for a big run. UCLA and UCF, another team that has some of the better wins in college basketball. Talking about UCF, they played Vandy close. They have a win over Kansas. They have a win over Texas Tech. They have a win over BYU. But if you saw their game against Arizona in the Big 12 tournament, it was awful. UCLA, on the other hand, it's not like they made a crazy run, but a lot for them is gonna ride on injuries. They got some guys that are a little banged up right now. Are they gonna play? Now, number 7 seeds have won 61% of their meetings with number 10 seeds. Last year actually marked the first time that multiple 10 seeds won in the first round since 2021. So that would make you think UCLA. But I just feel like their scoring ability isn't there, and UCF can put up some points. I feel like this is going to be a one that gets up there in points, and I think that UCF will win that one. Unfortunately, I think UConn has got it over Furman. I think UConn has a really, really easy road to a Sweet 16, because I don't think this UConn team is anything special. I mean, they were all right in I think subpar Big East. I mean, it was a 2-team league, realistically. I get Villanova's in, but really, it's Villanova. I mean, we watched them play St. John's and UConn, and when those games were important, they really struggled. So that will bring us on over to the West region. Arizona, Long Island. I'm going Arizona there. Villanova, Utah State. Another one that's a real toss-up. But I'll look at Fazlov and MJ Collins for Utah State as some guys that can put up some points. But looking at this Villanova squad, they're not scoring a lot. They're not, high 70s, not giving up more than 70. Don't have a ranked win this year. Now, on the other hand, Utah State hasn't played a ranked game this year. I mean, these are quite literally two teams that are neck and neck. I'm going to go Utah State on this one. I like Kevin Willard, and I would think that Villanova could be prone to make a big run, but a lot of that Maryland run last year was the King and Gillespie and Derek Queen, some guys like that. Wisconsin High Point is a very, very testy one on the the upset list, because 5-12 is definitely where you look. And this High Point team, when they get going, are scoring unreal numbers. But they're scoring unreal numbers. And listen, you don't win 30 games on accident. I will say that right here. And you don't score 90 points per game on accident. But their BPI puts them in the 60s. They haven't played a ranked game all year. While Wisconsin has been very up and down, I have a hard time thinking they're going to struggle big time against the team that they are going to be physically stronger than. Because you look, they have wins over Michigan, Illinois, twice, Purdue, Michigan State. I mean, they've beaten the big dogs. I'm going to go Wisconsin here, but I'm not going to do what I always do and give Wisconsin like a crazy run down the stretch. Now, here's a fun one. Arkansas and Hawaii. I don't want to pick the SEC champ to go deep, because they really don't. I feel like they kind of beat each other up in that tournament and get so down, and then you got to travel halfway across the world to Portland, and John Calipari's saying it's one of his favorite cities, but it's not close to home. But it's not close to Hawaii either, which makes this one a really, really tough pick. I don't know why I'm thinking this, but I really, really, really want to pick Hawaii, and I don't know what's telling me to do that because I've also been someone on this show that has said that I think Darius Acuff is probably the best college guard we've seen in I don't know how long. At freshman guard. Let me reiterate, freshman. But honestly, I mean, he is by far the best, and it feels insane to say this, but is by far the best guard that John Calipari's ever had. And this is a guy that has coached Derrick Rose, one of the best, one of the better college guards of, John Wall, Malik Monk, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jamal Murray. I mean, the amount of talent he has had at guard is insane, and Darius Acuff's the best of that. And I really think that if Arkansas's defense can step up a little bit, if they can get some more out of Trevin Brazile, guys like that, Arkansas is a team that can make a crazy run, and because they got one of the more talented kids in the country, and that's how you make runs. Now, unfortunately, I'm going to say the opposite for this next game. This is the BYU versus the winner of Texas and NC State, which I say is NC State. And honestly, it didn't matter who wins that game. I don't think BYU is going to win a tournament game. This is a team that relied on three scorers all year, and Richie Saunders, Robert Roth III, and A.J. DeMonza. Well, Richie Saunders is gone. He blew out his knee, unfortunately, at the end of the year, which is unfortunate because this is a BYU team that I was really high on if they could stay healthy, and that was a big if. Yeah, Wright and DeMonza can put up numbers, but listen, you get to the NCAA tournament, it is a team game. You have to have a team to win, and I don't think BYU has a team. I think they have a couple of guys, but they ain't got a team. Gonzaga and Kennesaw, an interesting one here going on in Portland, Oregon. And unfortunately, I'd love to see Gonzaga get upset, but if they're playing 10 minutes down the road, pretty much, I don't see them losing. Miami and Missouri. The Hurricanes had an excellent year, going 25-8 in the ACC under first-year head coach. And unfortunately, I think that right there, the first-year head coach and the youth of that first-year head coach, despite him being an incredibly talented guy, I just don't. This is a tough one because Missouri has really struggled in the tournament as of late. Under Dennis Gates, and it's tough because Jay Lucas has been on staffs at Duke, at Kentucky, at Texas. Winning NCAA tournament games. He was at Duke most recently, and that's kind of where you look for NCAA tournament wins. Every time I've gone through and picked a bracket, I've picked Missouri. And listen, there's something about Mark Mitchell that makes me think that dude does not want to lose a tournament. He has to win a tournament game. And, T.O. Barrett has really come on at the end of the year for this team. If Jaden Stone, if he can hit some shots, from some outside shots, I think Missouri's good enough defensively to get there. Looking at some of Miami's, really their best win of the year, is it a 5-point win over Louisville in the tournament? Is that really where we're getting to? Looking at Missouri, they actually do have some pretty good highlight wins. They beat Florida early in conference play. They beat Kentucky early in conference play. They got a nice win over Vanderbilt and Tennessee in a 2-week span there in February. We're over in the SEC tournament. Boy, that's a tough one. We'll come back to that one, but for right now, leaving that one blank. Purdue, Queens. Purdue is the team that would lose a first-round game. I just don't know if Queens University, Charlotte, is the one to do it. So we'll head to the bottom of the bracket with the South. Prairie View, Lehigh, Florida. Florida is going to... I think Florida and Michigan are going to have the... Honestly, I don't know which one of these 16-1 games is going to be close. I don't think any of them are going to be within 35 points. Clemson, Iowa is a really interesting one, and I really want to pick Iowa because I really do like Bennett Sturts and Ben McCollum and that whole thing there at Iowa, but man, Brad Brownell is inevitable. He always has this Clemson team right there around tournament level. R.J. Godfrey, Carter Whaling, some extremely talented guys, and they're good at defense, which means if they can stop Bennett Sturts, Iowa's cooked. Iowa doesn't score a whole lot of points, and he does most of their scoring. Now, if I had to diagnose the South region with a name, it is Upset City, because if you were a 4 seed in this, 5 seed, a 6 seed, a 3 seed, literally anybody but the 1 and 2 seeds, you're on upset alert. Because all of these lower seeds are very dangerous teams. We'll start with Vandy and McNeese. This is a McNeese team that 28-5 out of the win the Southland. Really, really good. And the 5-12 is always where you look at those upsets. And I believe McNeese was a 5-12 upset last year. This is their third straight year in the tournament. First year without Will Wade. Not going to have Copeland. I think that hurts them just enough. I'm going to go Vandy, but watch out for that one. Nebraska and Troy is also an intriguing matchup, simply for the fact that Nebraska is the last power conference team to not win an NCAA tournament game. They've never won one. And, they've had some chances past couple of years. And listen, they got the guys to do it. They got Price Sanford. They got Rank Most. But listen, Thomas Dowd and Victor Valdez is a very good 1-2 punch from Troy as well. It's an early game on Thursday. I mean, that has upset written all over it. I'm going to go Troy with the upset over Nebraska. Unfortunately, and listen, I think the Cornhuskers are an extremely talented team, but I think they have a couple of youngsters, Braden Frager especially, that may be looking towards next year. North Carolina and VCU. The Tar Heels, 6 seed, 24-8. But they're going to be without their best player, Caleb Wilson. And this has been a different North Carolina team without him. And they've dealt with injuries. Seth Trimble, Henry Vessar has spent some time out. And I just don't know if I like this team without Caleb Wilson. And Terrence Hill for VCU is an extremely talented guard. And I think that VCU has enough in the front court to keep it close. Because, listen, this is a VCU team that played Vandy good early in the season. They played NC State good early in the season. When you get into A-10 play, they played St. Louis close both times. They played George Mason close. 2 wins over Dayton late in the year. I think it's a VCU team that could easily come in here, and I got them taking down North Carolina. Another potential upset alert. TJ Power is probably one of my favorite players in college basketball over the weekend watching the Ivy League tournament finals. Penn getting that win over Yale with TJ Power going 44-14 in the championship game. Is Fran McCaffrey versus, sort of back in the Big Ten, I guess you could say, for one game against Brad Underwood in Illinois. These are going to be two very physical teams that play a Big Ten style of basketball. But unfortunately, man, this Illinois team, they're the biggest team in the country. And when you got the guys that Illinois has, you got to keep Wagler. You have one of those freshmen that can just take over a game. But then you have Andrei Stojakovic. You have David Mirkovic. You got the Ivasic brothers. You got Colin Boswell back from last year. You got Ben Hummerkaus, who's coming off the bench and providing some substantial energy. Jake Davis as well. I think this is an Illinois team that thinks they could have made a better run last year, and that's going to fuel them this year. The 7-10 game in the South Regional. St. Mary's and Texas A&M. I look at St. Mary's this year, and yeah, they did get a win over Gonzaga. I can't remember, it feels like every year those two teams split. But we've seen them play, kind of tournament caliber teams. Vanderbilt beat St. Mary's earlier in the year by nearly 30. And while they have gotten much better and the defense is playing good, going 1 for 2 against Santa Clara, a team that is viewed as a 10 seed, quite literally on the other side of the bracket from you, I don't think fares well. Texas A&M really struggled at the end of the year, and I think it was good that they didn't stick around in the SEC tournament very long, because they need to get back to the drawing board. They got a good win against Auburn to start conference play, and then they just kind of fell down a hole and ended it with a nice win over Kentucky there to start March. I think Buckyball is going to get it done in year one, at least get a first-round win. Idaho, Houston, listen, this is a Houston team I got making a run. Over in the Midwest, UMBC Howard, I'm going to go Michigan in that one. Georgia St. Louis is a very interesting matchup. Robbie Avila, Trey Green, really, really, really talented St. Louis team. This is a Georgia team that is going to rely on cannon catching Jeremiah Wilkinson. Can they do it? Listen, Georgia hasn't won a tournament game in forever. Mike White hasn't won a tournament game in forever. Give me St. Louis, the 9 seed with the win there. A possible upset here brewing between Akron and Texas Tech. What Texas Tech isn't going to be without JT Toppin, their leading scorer, their leading rebounder, a very important player that would be matched up against Amani Lyles for Akron, a guy that's going for 15-8 himself. The matchup, though, between Tavari Johnson and Christian Anderson is very compelling, though. And listen, Anderson, an extremely talented youngster. I don't think he's going to let Texas Tech lose the first-round game. I got the Red Raiders moving on to the next round. Alabama Hofstra is an interesting one because this Hofstra team, they put up some points, and their defense, well, they put up enough points. They score 75 points a game. That's probably on the lower end of this year of things. And Alabama, number 1 offense in the country, scored 1,000 points, it feels like. But Alabama gives up a lot of points. Hofstra does not. Alabama's going to be without their, you would assume, would be without their second leading scorer, Aiden Holloway. I'll see if there's any update on that. The only thing that has come out recently is how much of a certain substance was found in his apartment. There were some. Okay, so this is as of 3 hours ago. Police say they found 964 grams of marijuana, which is about 2.1 pounds, in the residence of Alabama basketball star Aiden Holloway, per documents obtained by Alabama.com. He told them he, quote, only smokes. Pretty sure weed's still illegal in Alabama, so not a good look there. There was a report from Pete Thamel last night that said they had removed him from campus. I think that's the latest we have on all of this, so definitely not a good look. So from Jeff Borzillo, Alabama coach Nate Oates addressed the Aiden Holloway status a little while ago during his weekly appearance on the Hey Coach radio show. Quote, "We are preparing to play without him this weekend." Weekend is 2 games. I don't know if they'll get to that second game. Listen, an Alabama team that relies a lot on scoring and you're missing one of your best scorers against a team that has great scoring at the guard position, I got Hofstra. And I hate to pick an upset over an SEC team in the first round because, listen, as much as I preach that I'm not a conference homer, listen, advance as many SEC teams as you can, except Kentucky, as far as you want to, without them having to beat Tennessee. That would be the way that my Tennessee fan brain would work. Tennessee versus Miami, Ohio, or SMU. Again, I said I have SMU winning that game. I think it provides a fun matchup, but I think Tennessee getting some time off to rest Nate Ament, to rest Jacoby Gillespie, to give some of these big guys some time to heal up. I think that's going to be. I think the post is going to be the thing that keeps Tennessee from losing to a team that's seated below them. You look at, and I look at the Tennessee South Carolina matchup as an example of that. If the guards don't need to score, they don't have to. You can go to Felix Okpara. You can go to J.P. Estrella. You can go to Jalen Carey. You can go to, I get he struggled a little bit later in the season, Dwayne Brown. I think Ethan Berg has also been playing some really good basketball that can give you 5 minutes on the floor without Jacoby Gillespie. I'm not picking Tennessee to make a crazy run or anything, but I do think that is a fun matchup that could be pretty interesting. Virginia, Wright State. Again, I like Wright State, but Virginia is a very good team this year. Santa Clara and Kentucky, a 7-10 that is very, very compelling. Kentucky has some of the best and worst results of anybody in the country. They have a nearly 40-point loss to a Gonzaga team that a lot of people aren't very high on, but they played Florida close. They have wins over Tennessee twice. They have a win over Vanderbilt. They split with Vanderbilt, but also Vanderbilt beat them the first time by 25 points. Looking at Santa Clara, on the other hand, some of their results, it's a lot of St. Mary's and it's a lot of Gonzaga. A 1-point loss to St. Louis, who is a team that was seated just above them. A win over a McNeese team that is seated a couple spots below them. Went 0 for 3 against Gonzaga. Not Now, did go 2-1 against St. Mary's, so that kind of tells you where they are. Looking at things, they're scoring about as much as Kentucky. They're scoring a little more Kentucky. They're giving up a little less. 1-3 versus the top 25, but Kentucky's 5 for 9, so it's a little bit better. And I'm having a hard time trying to figure out, if you look over the past couple of years, if the problem was Mark Pope, if the problem was Kentucky, or if it was John Calipari with them not making runs that ended up him leaving and going to Arkansas. Kentucky made a pretty good run last year with Mark Pope, but I also think Kentucky had a extremely talented roster last year that injuries really failed them. I think Dick Vitale said it best. He doesn't care if I think it was during the Florida-Kentucky game a couple weeks ago. I don't care if they win, lose, draw, whatever happens to Kentucky for the rest of the season, but he feels like they could have gotten a much better roster for $22 million, and I agree. I'm going Santa Clara with an upset. One that is, kind of near and dear to some people's hearts around here. Tennessee State, a 15 seed, facing off with Iowa State, but I think Iowa State is the best. Honestly, there's some of these brackets I think the 2 seeds are better than the 1 seed. The South is one of them, and the Midwest is the other one. I got Iowa State with a good win there. Next round games, Duke going up against Ohio State. Listen, Duke not going to be with Caleb Foster. But I think Caden Boozer can fill in enough. And he played really, really well in the ACC tournament. I got Duke in the Sweet 16. St. John's in Kansas is a fun one. You got Rick Pitino, Bill Self. I mean, this is the blue blood region, so to speak. And, again, if Darren Peterson plays a full game, I got Kansas. But I don't know if I can rely on him to play a full game, especially against a physical team like St. John's. But I also don't want to be the dumb one that puts them in the Sweet 16 again like I did last year and they lose in the second round. I'll throw Kansas into the Sweet 16. Listen, I watched them play. They've won games with Darren Peterson and they've won games without Darren Peterson. And it really kind of comes on the back of Trey White and Flory Badunga, who I think got enough to get it done in that game. And this is a St. John's team that has struggled so much to shoot the basketball. And listen, if you can't score, you can't win games. That's the way it is nowadays. It's kind of like football. In college football 5 or 6 years ago when everybody just started, kind of running that turbo jet offense where you're just running and throwing and scoring a bunch of points. That's kind of the way things go. Now, I do want to pick an upset to kind of make a little bit of a run here, but I'm not sure exactly who I want to make it be, but I think I want South Florida to upset Michigan State in the second round. Again, this is a Michigan. Listen, it feels like there are months in this on the calendar. You have January, you have February, you have Izzo. And I don't know. That second round game also being in Buffalo just makes me think that South Florida's got some special magic about them, and I don't know who the star player is going to be. Is it going to be Wes Ennis? Is it going to be Isaiah Nelson? Who knows? But I got South Florida as my upset pick, and Louisville could go through and win the national championship game, and I would not be embarrassed about that. But it always seems like every year when they find a Cinderella, when there is a Cinderella, there's a great story behind it, and I don't know if there's a better story in college basketball than at least to me than Brian Hodgson. UCF UConn. Wow, man, am I giving UConn like a free path to the Elite Eight? It seems so, but I got them taking down UCF. Actually, I kind of want to go back and put UCLA. I don't know. I always get to this point and then like, oh man, I feel like I've chalked it too much. But you look at last year, you put the 1 seed in the Final Four, and you got off. You got it right. So we will go to the other side. Arizona, Utah State. I think Arizona is the favorite to win in my mind. Wisconsin and Arkansas. Just because I want to see the matchup, give me Arkansas and Arizona in a Sweet 16. I don't know where the game would be. I don't know where the West Sweet 16 region lines up to, but man, put it in Texas. Give me that game in like Dallas or something. That would be extremely great. NC State and Gonzaga, I'm going the Zags here. I just feel like they have a great path. And I'm going to go I'm taking Miami over Missouri in the first round, but I'm going to take Purdue over Miami. I don't know. It just feels like anytime Purdue's lined up in a bracket with Tennessee, they just win all the way until they can play Tennessee. And when they're not, they lose to a 15 seed. But I got them Sweet 16 this year. I just feel like they have too many pieces to not win these games. Florida and Clemson, I just think that the things that Clemson's good at, Florida will take away. And if you can't keep up with Florida scoring and going up and down the floor, you can't beat them. And Florida goes as their guards go. And while they didn't play great against Vanderbilt in the SEC semifinal, where they got beat by 17 points, they looked great after that. And funny enough, look what we have here. I have Vanderbilt over Troy in the second round, and that sets up for a Vandy Florida Sweet 16. VCU and Illinois, again, I just think this Illinois team has a little bit too much. And I'm going to say same thing with Houston over A&M. I just feel like that this Houston team is on a murderer's row because last year they felt like it was their shot. So they kept as many of those guys as they could from last year and went and brought in one of the best freshman classes in the country to go with it, because that's kind of been the thing that Houston has been missing. In the Midwest, Michigan, St. Louis, I'm going Michigan there. I have all four of my 1 seeds making it at least to the Sweet 16. No 8-9 upsets this year. Texas Tech and Hofstra. I'm going to go with the Red Raiders there. I think that sets up a very good Texas Tech-Michigan matchup there in the Sweet 16. Tennessee, Virginia. My mind wants me to pick Virginia because Virginia is the better team. But are they? This is a Virginia team that is holding teams to... you look, they're scoring a point more per game than Tennessee, and Tennessee is giving up a point more per game. Tennessee's 4-5 versus the top 25. Virginia 1-3. Tennessee in the BPI is 12. Virginia is 20. I am going to say the one thing about this. I think the one thing that is going to help Tennessee a lot, if that is a matchup they do get with Virginia in the second round, I think the one thing that is going to help Tennessee is, again, kind of something I've talked about a couple of times. It's youth. This is an extremely young Virginia team. Deista Ritter, freshman, and Malik Thomas, second leading scorer. He's a senior. Sam Lewis, junior. Chance Mallory, freshman. Jakari White, senior. But, even some of their big men, like Johan Grunlow. He's 7-footer from Germany. He's a freshman. Ugonna Onyenso, a big man. He's a senior. And it's just, I don't know. I feel like they run a little bit too much through freshmen. Going back and looking at their ACC, the most recent game we had to judge them by is a 4-point loss to Duke. A game where Sam Hall was good, a game where Malik Thomas was good, and a game where Deista Ritter really struggled, and Johan Grunlow really struggled, and where Ugonna Onyenso, he was all right. I'm not going to say he struggled, but wasn't great. And a game where Duke really relied on their guards to make plays. So kind of redact everything that I had just said. It's a compelling matchup. I don't know, because the Tennessee team is really young too. They have Jacoby Gillespie and Felix Okpara on that senior class, but then you got so many freshmen with Amari Evans, Nate Ament, Dwayne Brown, guys like that. I'll go Virginia though to take down Tennessee there, and I'm gonna have Iowa State over Santa Clara. So a lot of chalk. Actually, is this not pure chalk, but pretty close as we move on down the line. Duke, Kansas in the Sweet 16. I think this is Blue Blood Central. But, again, I think Duke just a little bit too much. I'm going to go UConn and Duke in that regional final. I'm going to go Arizona, Gonzaga to do battle in the Elite Eight in the West Bracket Championship. I'm going to go Houston, Florida. Unfortunately, I hate the... Actually, I'll go Houston, Vanderbilt. Give me Vanderbilt in the Elite Eight. I don't know why. But listen, they handled Florida the first time around, and they're going to have to handle some of those tricky 12, 13 seeds to get to this point, give me Vandy in the Elite Eight. Michigan and Texas Tech. Michigan is going to be missing some guys, but is it anything as big as missing JT Toppin? I don't think so, and I think Michigan's front court is going to be way too big for a Texas Tech front court that doesn't feature JT Toppin. Virginia and Iowa State in a regional final. I'm going to go Iowa State here, so I have 1, 2, 3 1 seeds in my Elite Eights. Duke, UConn in a regional final. I'm going Duke in that one. Arizona, Gonzaga in a regional final. I have Arizona in that one. I'm going to send Houston and Iowa State to the Final Four. So we have a 1 seed Duke versus a 2 seed Houston in the Final Four, going up against, well, wow, I have 3 Big 12 teams. Okay, that's definitely not going to happen. But Arizona and Iowa State in the other one. I want Duke, Arizona in the national championship game. I'm going to pick Arizona. I'm going to pick the total points to be 168. Actually, only 178. Not just 78. They'll score a little more than that. I'll go 178. That's it's about 60. What is that? Close to 70 points per game. So yeah, a little more. So I'll do 160. Nah, I don't think they'll both get to 80. I think we're going to have like a 72-68, so 140. We'll go 144. How about that? So that is my official bracket. Cinderella, I got you South Florida. My first 1 seed going down, I got Florida. But listen, I think you're going to head into a tournament with a Houston team that is really hungry and an Iowa State team that is really hungry. I think if there is a double-digit seed to make a run to an Elite Eight or a Final Four, it's going to be Miami of Ohio, just because that's the team you know least about and could do some crazy stuff because, again, we haven't seen them versus big schools yet. And that's what makes it so much fun. So I'm going to click Submit, and that is my bracket. Arizona winning the national championship over Duke, featuring a Final Four with also Houston and Iowa State. So that will do it for this Tuesday edition of the Mark My Words Sports Show here on the X Sports Network. We'll be back a little bit later in the week, probably on X Sports Live, to discuss a little bit more about the tournament. But it's going to be a ton of fun. We should have another show early next week, and we'll get you caught back up in college baseball and talk a little bit more about the NCAA tournament. So that will do it for this episode of the Mark My Words College Sports Show. Have a good day, everybody.
Going the distance with local sports. This is the X Sports Network.